Wow! The podcast about the superpowers of highly sensitive people.
Hello, thank you for having you here.
Thank you for having me.
That's great. Lovísa, you are a department manager. What kind of department is it?
So I am the department manager for our software development department. Mm-hmm. We are actually a vocational educational business, private business, but we run our own software development department to kind of support our activities.
Mm-hmm. So IT, short. Okay, so there is a lot of myths about IT guys, IT specialists, and one of them is that they do not need anything more like computer.
Well, yeah, that's not really true. A computer is, of course, probably one of the most important tools. You need to have the computer, but they also need to have good work environment, and that's not just the physical environment, but also the digital environment, because it's two very different things. One thing is having a physical workstation like a desk and the computer and the mouse, and that can all be adapted and adjusted for personal preferences. But the digital work environment is extremely important in IT and in software development, because the specialists need to adapt to the tools and softwares that are in the digital environment.
Okay, so we mostly heard about physical environment. This is nothing surprised when we talk about work, that it is important that place where you work should be adapted to your preferences, and also some universal qualities like green environment and so on. But digital environment, digital work environment is something very different.
Yeah, it really is, and it's harder to adjust to each individual person. Within IT and software development, if you're doing best practice, a company has their own frameworks. They have their own languages. We call them programming languages that they work with, and that's kind of depends on what type of products they are producing. And then they have frameworks where they write the coding within the framework, and then there's several third-party softwares or tools that you use to optimize the processes and to adapt the code in a good manner, so that everyone, let's say you have 10 people working on the same project, you need to make sure they're all following the same rules. Otherwise the code doesn't match, it won't communicate properly. So those systems are there to help support that, and they need to know how they work.
I can imagine that this is some very complex environment. So the words that you use and those specific professional words work very well for IT guys. But how it is connected with temperament? How it is connected with personality? Are there any difference? Do you notice any difference in way how they need to be treated, or how they need to have some kind of environment when we talk about IT specialists?
Yeah, well, in my experience, I've experienced parts of, like, let's say, bad practices, which can have bad consequences for individuals. But I've also seen how, like, best practice, good practices can have really good consequences. So if we start with bad practice to see like how that can negatively affect an individual, I would want to start with looking at onboarding, for example. You need to make sure that the individual that you're hiring, even though it's a programmer and he knows his coding languages, he might not know the environment.
Okay.
So he needs to get like a good onboarding process. Probably set him up with another programmer, a peer programmer, to help him get settled within the digital environment, not alone, but with someone else, teaching them how to use the frameworks and the tools properly.
Okay, so you say we took it for granted that some people who we hire are good in something. That's why we are not adapt them to a new environment, digital environment.
Exactly. If you don't do those things, which I was probably going to say, if you don't do those things, it's easier for them to feel abandoned. Like the management doesn't understand my needs. They don't understand that even though I understand the code, I'm not sure how to adapt the code to this third-party application or how to work within their environment.
Yes.
Because it's like going into a new building and you don't know where the rooms are.
Okay.
You need someone to show you. You just feel stupid. You're standing in the lobby and you're like, where do I go?
Okay.
Even though you know what you should do in each room, you don't know where to go. So that can be a source of anxiety and emotional stress. And another thing that's very important in IT and software development especially is task definitions. The tasks need to be defined very specifically within specific models. If they aren't, then the developer it's easier for them to interpret on their own, come to their own conclusions, and they're of course doing their best. They want to do the best possible product, which will then again make it a harder blow if the result isn't what was expected because it wasn't defined properly.
Okay, so this is some kind of sense of secure or like feeling secure in this environment? Yeah,
I think so. It's they need to feel safe within the digital environment and also within safe within the communication of tasks.
Okay, so you said two things. One related to someone who help you to adapt and help you to understand. And the second, when you are in the middle of understanding, you need some specific rules, specific instructions, and so on. That's fulfill your need of feel secure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that's if you have all of that in place, the definitions, the understanding of framework, you are secure in your work, and it gives you the possibility to do better quality work, and you will feel more fulfilled because you are delivering better tasks in better time. You're more effective, and it leads it makes these ripples, throughout.
Sounds reasonable, but how does it happen that people still believe that putting pressure on a worker, employee, putting some time pressure, task pressure, like giving some, feedback, do it quicker, doesn't work? Why we still believe that it will help someone?
I actually sometimes it can be positive having deadlines.
Yes. Because
even though there's a lot of framework actually within software development, there's also room for creativity and adapting the solutions. So it's a pretty creative field, which in my experience, creative fields kind of require deadlines. Otherwise you're never going to get finished.
That's true. This is something like your good practice. You understand the creativity process, and you know that you need some boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. But then again, if you don't have these best practice methods, then you suddenly get more bad pressure because you create products that aren't up to quality because the communication isn't good enough, or the guidelines aren't good enough, the framework or the workers, they don't understand the framework good enough. So that creates pressure and from above, from the management, which then again of course seeps into the self-confidence and the emotional effect of the staff. Which can cause burnout.
Yeah, that's true. And you told us a little bit about your good practices, about the way how you do that. So let's start from the beginning. How you do the adaptation process? How it is? You called it peer helping program.
Peer programming. Yeah, we are a pretty young company, so we recently started with peer programming because we see that it is very good. So. What we do there is that instead of having one person working on a task, we put them at least two together, two or three. So we kind of focus more resources on individual tasks so that they're not working alone. They have each other, they can talk to each other, and they rely on each other. So they are in their own workstations, probably not in the office really, but they're in each other's headsets and in each other's digital environments, and they're working together digitally online on the same tasks.
Okay, so you probably answer my question. How, because about the communication in IT environment, in digital environment, it's mostly like sending an email or short messages, like writing something. And you said, no, they are working remotely, but still simultaneously.
Yeah, they are. They have. They use digital tools like we use Teams a lot now and Telegram. But I actually think they prefer Discord when they're on their own. Okay. They use Discord to communicate. So then they're basically just hanging out virtually, talking. The tasks are defined and communicated through project management programs, and they go through the tasks there, but they go through them together.
Okay, so do you? Because our podcast is about high sensitivity, and in general thinking about the people are different in the way they react, they process stimuli from the environment. Do you have your own way of thinking about it, or do your company is connected with that way of thinking?
Yeah, especially after getting to know the concept, it's completely changed the perception and how we address various personal issues. So we really need to address each person very independently. We see they're very different individuals. They have very different needs. They're all male. They don't communicate that much about their needs or how they are doing. But I also feel that the way I approach them has made the effect that at least some of them feel more comfortable in opening up to me about things that might be bothering them.
Okay, so this is also your solution. Like you have a person with people who can connect, who can share their needs, and that's the way how to model. You're a model role of this communication process.
It's really we try to keep on open dialogue about what's working, what isn't working, and what works isn't always the same for everybody. It might be very different. For some people, they need to be in the office and they have a big need to communicate physically and point at the screen and being there, while others almost physically can't be in the office. It gives them anxiety, so they work from home. And for us, it's a matter of seeing how does this person do the best possible work? Where do they thrive? How do they thrive? Because this sector, this type of work gives possibilities for adaptation. So we really try to adapt because we can.
Okay, you're flexible for individual needs because you can be flexible for individual needs. Probably everyone can be flexible for individual needs, but probably everyone can be flexible for individual needs, but it's up to our own knowledge about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to to understand the concept. I mean, if I wouldn't have understood high sensitivity, at least in some manner, and what the solutions might be, it wouldn't I wouldn't have the tools to address various issues the same way I do today.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of tools are there?
It's, for example, understanding that I shouldn't pressure a person that really struggles to come into the office to come in, because that person does the best work they do from home. Mm-hmm.
And you find a way that they communicate each other, even if they are not physically in the same place. Mm-hmm.
And it's about seeing that, trying to notice that if someone needs them, because as I said, communication isn't always key, and that if another worker needs their help, it's to connect them as well. Like, it's seeing the details. It's a little bit hard to explain, but it's noticing the details, and making room for the best possible results, and for the staff to thrive and feel that they are seen, and that their grievances, if any, are met, and that if there's positive feedback, that we try to build more on that. Like, what works, let's do more of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you find you use the knowledge, you use the reliable knowledge about individual differences, try to adapt, but still have some hard skills like giving rules, giving good manuals, giving information how to work with this digital environment. So does it work also with communicating each other? Do you have any rules to communicate each other?
Yeah, we don't have defined rules per now, but we feel the need for it as the team grows. We see that we need to formulate some guidelines on how do we actually talk to each other. Be mindful of tone of voice. Be mindful of the type of words you use, because even though I might be observant to how people react differently to different instructions or messages, others in the team might not, because we see things differently. So I have had discussions with team members about, please just mind the tone of your voice. It's nothing, we all understand that it's nothing personal, but it still might be hard for other team members to process that it isn't personal. It takes them longer,
Okay, that's very important. You said very important thing, that even those things, not the quality of the voice, saying some things which you all understand that this is nothing personal, you are saying that. You're expressing that.
We understand we are a team. We work together, and we all want the same thing, and we're a pretty good family. But families also have conflicts and issues and frustrations. And not everyone has as good of a filter when they're frustrated. So, as I said, everybody understands there's no personal issues. But, some people just take longer in processing the feelings that they might get as a response to a certain tone. And I actually feel that a tone of voice is more important than the actual words, because you can say pretty much anything if you use a good tone. But the tone of voice is very important.
Okay, so you are the person who's facilitating this environment.
Yes.
And how you do that?
You should ask my staff. We are in an open landscape.
Okay, I would probably ask your...
I'm in my corner and I observe and I talk to them. Some people I talk to throughout the day, all the day, digitally mostly. But I can hear them talking to each other. I can notice from my corner that, okay, now they have an issue. And it's not an issue with each other, but it's an issue with a task. They're frustrated. And when they're frustrated, things might emotions might run higher, and then if I hear someone I know who they're working with that might be working remotely, I maybe send a message: "Is everything okay?" Or like, "How is that task going?" And then I usually get some. They vent to me, like they come and vent to me, and that's fine. And I just try to adapt.
And you know that this is nothing personal.
Yeah, I know it's nothing personal. They can complain about me as well as much as they want. It's fine. It's nothing personal.
So yeah, this is the really high level of understanding of personal processes. Like this process of communication, problem solving, worrying versus problem solving works. Okay, so you as a manager are facilitating this process.
Very actively.
Very actively. That's also important. Okay, so you said about peer programs, about facilitating work, even if those are soft skills, like you support that kind of processes. You said something about tutors. Is it like something else that you do at your work?
No, not me or us. Oh yeah, actually, I'm not being completely true there. We, within our department, and within the framework of the vocational center that we are, we invite people on what we call it work training through governmental facilitations. Like people, they get paid. Unemployed people get paid to do activities, work training activities. So there's a specific group that comes to us, usually unemployed young men that have had trouble coming or finding their way into the job market, usually interested in computers and gaming, etc. So we open up our office for them. We have 5 spaces, and we teach them programming.
Ooh.
So our developers in various degrees are involved in teaching them programming. We have what has eventually become a short course in like fundamental programming languages that we use internally. So we have a couple of developers that follow them up very tightly, like practically with practical tasks, teaching them the coding. And eventually they might come in and help with our tasks and maybe get employed with us, or we help them, and that's my role as well, help them get in contact with other businesses within our network and see if there's any openings or opportunities for them there.
That's great. Does it mean that you train in some especially way your workers to do that? Like they have some, I don't know, pointers. They have some clues or rules how to do that, or you are just choosing people who think they know how to do that.
Actually, it's kind of just developed this way. So we should look into now, maybe looking at the pedagogy and all of it. We actually were so lucky that now we have this guy who is doing the program. He has educational background from teaching, so he has learned the programming, and he had some pointers to our course or our theory. So he is looking into like reformulating some of the material and setting it up in a more didactic manner. But we should absolutely look into supporting our developers that are teaching, giving them maybe some tools and theory to work with. Yeah.
Do you find working with male environment demanding?
I wouldn't say demanding. I would say it's different. Within software as well, I don't want to generalize, of course not, but people that are attracted to IT and software aren't necessarily people that are the most outgoing and the most social. They choose this career, if they choose this career, because they enjoy, on one hand, it might be the logic of it, the programming and the mind, like the challenging of the mind. But on the other hand, it might be because they are feel uncomfortable around people. They want to work alone. They are introverts. They have social anxiety or other elements that have contributed to them choosing this type of career path. So you have the combination of a male environment of sometimes men that aren't maybe comfortable in various situations, and they aren't always very good at communicating it.
Okay.
So that also brings in the importance of seeing them and asking, like, how are you doing? I think the question I ask the most is, what can I do for you to make this task better, like make your work easier?
Yeah, it sounds like nothing like very hard to do, but it is very helpful.
Yeah, because it's hard for them to really say what they need. It's hard for them to look in like, I need this, but if I ask what can I do? What do you want? What can I do? It's easier for them to say that. Can you put it in that perspective? I think it's a level of self-reflection that not all men are comfortable with necessarily.
Yeah, you said that you change perspective, which is very important, not stucking in the same place where you don't know what to do or you feel overwhelmed. Yeah, that's something that works very well with all people, especially highly sensitive.
Really?
That's true. That's true. Okay, could you tell some? Yeah, because we catch a little bit about different areas and different ways how you introduce your good practice at workplace. You tell us about the digital environment, how it is important, how some rules and practices that you develop are important for your workers. Could you say some, like we are going through the final conclusion, do you have some things that you would like to share with us?
Actually, when I was reflecting on this conversation beforehand, what I wanted to talk about, I kind of got this what do you call it? Epiphany. Let's say, realized that I actually think at least the software development business might be kind of ideal for highly sensitive persons to work in, at least if you have a manager that can see you. But just taking into consideration that if you have a best practice workplace within software development, it really gives you all of the tools and support to thrive within a safe workspace, because you know what the boundaries are, you know the guidelines, you are familiar with the environments. They really adapt to both the physical environment for each one personally. It's pretty easy when it comes to hardware, like screen and mouse and desk and etc. And doing peer programming and doing very regular meetings, like group meetings, team meetings, to make sure communication is proper and everyone is on the same page, building team spirit. And also within the framework of the tasks, defining the tasks, being secure in what you're working with. Like, this is what I have to do, this is what it's going to be, but I have certain creativity within the limitations. So I think it might be, it's a pretty ideal workplace for a highly sensitive person if you're interested. If you're interested in IT and if you feel that this is something good for you, like you're interested in, because there is a lot of different highly sensitive people with more extrovertic, more introverts and so on. But that also can be adapted in a way, because you don't have to be in the physical workplace and participate in the social activities. You can just do your job and and be done with it.
And you said still with team spirit. So it is possible to do. It is possible to build team spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty important to... it doesn't have to be a social, like, team spirit. We're friends and we do everything together. But the spirit around the tasks, that because you need to have designers working together with developers and then testing and going back and project manager. There's like a lot of aspects and roles coming together, and
a lot of communication.
A lot of communication. We need to, in best practice businesses, you have daily short meetings on like, what were you doing yesterday? What are you doing today? Do you have any issues? You need help.
Yes, and it means that this is not waste of time.
No.
This is something that helped really well.
Yes, absolutely. So if you have a best practice company, I think it's a pretty good workplace for a highly sensitive person. If it's not a best practice company, it might be more challenging.
Okay, so if you could choose like 2 or 3 things that you will put into IT companies that might help, what it would be?
I think maybe the thing that might be lacking generally is having a person that maybe can do what I do in that manner, being in the perspective, as I talked about, being observant, that I'm in their space. Not that I always enjoy it, or that they always enjoy me being in their space, but we're all together and I can observe.
Yes.
So being able to observe and experience what is actually going on, not just from the task or project perspective, but from the social and environment, like emotional perspective as well. Being able to step in and address issues if there are any issues to address, or diffuse situations if there is anything to diffuse. But I have at least the possibility that I can see, might there be something here, and I can check it out. Great. You know, I kind of be one step ahead, and going into these informal conversations, talking to them and like, okay, asking what you need from me.
Yes. Not
just saying you have to do this and that, and if you have a problem, figure it out and tell me about it. You know, tell me about your problem. But I actually go and like, what can I do? So I think that's probably a very important point that I think works very well for us. Number 2 is good, like creating guidelines, both for. It's most people see it as very basic, creating guidelines for the work, but the social aspect of like, how do we talk together? Like, how do we want our work environment to be? So not like rules on we do it like this and that, but guidelines. Like a little bit like in kindergarten, like this is how we behave and this is how we treat each other, you know.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for having me. It was very lovely.
Thank you very much.
Promotion. Sensitive Career Management Project has been funded with the support of the European Commission. This podcast reflects the views only of the author, and the Commission cannot be held responsible for any use which may be made of the information contained therein. Wow! The podcast about the superpowers of highly sensitive people.